Now we've got the Police Race Action Plan. It's being launched today. It aims to create an anti-racist police service that better serves black people across the country. All police officers will have to undergo mandatory lessons on black history. And apparently they should be feeling comfortable about being called woke because that means that they are anti-racist. What do you make of all of that? Let's talk to Parm Sandhu. She's a former Met Police Superintendent. Good morning to you.
Good morning, Julia.
Thank you so much for joining us. Whenever I hear this phrase anti-racist, it always makes me very worried. Being not racist, absolutely. Being racist, bad. Anti-racist, though, has a lot of other connotations, and this is sort of turning into anti-racism is sort of a new thing now, which is basically seeing race everywhere in everything and seeing it as the reason that motivates pretty much particularly white people about everything. Is this the police going a little bit too far on an issue which is certainly an issue that does need to be tackled, but are they going too far?
It is an issue that is important and it does need to be dealt with. But this is the report that came out today, in my view, is very political.
Yeah.
In the report, they won't accept that there's institutional racism, but they will apologise for racism and bias which still exists. So it's almost like a political report where they've got to say something and they're trying to, be very careful and gentle about what they actually say and what they do.
Yeah.
And where you're talking about mandatory training for all officers about Black history, that's not new. The Macpherson report, which came out in 1999, all of us, I was a serving police officer, I was an inspector in East London at the time, all of us had to go on this mandatory, and it was called race relations training then. So all of this report is just a rehash.
But just saying with the right keywords. When you went on that course, what sort of thing were you being taught?
It was absolutely awful. It was absolutely awful training. We went into these community groups. I was the only non-white officer there. So I became the scapegoat and my colleagues were like, well, Parm, you tell us about it. The community were, well, how do you feel about it? So
everything was all about you. So it was all about your colour.
Yeah. So all the Black and Asian officers became almost targeted to speak from internally and externally as well.
So you have this unique insight because of it. Yeah. This is a difficult thing. And this is the problem when racist people target people because of their colour, which is an absolutely appalling and abhorrent thing to do. But it's also a problem when people talk about, anti-racism. As I say, in this idea that sort of, again, we've got this idea that all white people are somehow inherently racist and have to go on unconscious bias courses. And all my biases, completely conscious, well thought through. Nothing wrong with having biases as long as you've thought them through and they're evidence-based. But this idea that there is this ongoing problem. I've never accepted the idea of institutional racism. I don't accept that there are whole organisations which are setting out to treat people of different ethnicities in a different way. Do you think we still have an institutionally racist police force?
I actually do believe that we do have institutional racism within the policing service. The reason I say that is because if you're a Black officer, you're more likely to be investigated by your colleagues for internal complaints. So I'm not talking about external complaints. Yeah. You're more likely to be investigated. You're then more likely to be going through the discipline process. Yeah. And then at the end of it, you're 3 times more likely to be sacked. That's not because the whole of policing is racist, because they're not. Because I've worked with some fantastic police officers of all different genders, races, backgrounds. There are some fantastic individuals, but the policies and procedures that are there are not fit for purpose anymore.
They're being used against people. I was told by a manager once that, not in the police force, but in another company, that actually often you end up in a situation where Black and Asian employees would end up going through a lot of these sort of formal procedures more simply because managers were very wary of tackling anything informally. The casual chat, look, can you not do that anymore? There's been an issue, something raised. They're very wary of doing anything informally because they're worried about an accusation of racism. So everything goes down a formal channel. And actually the white people are just not going down that formal channel because it's dealt with on an informal basis. And it's not because of the managers are inherently racist and are trying to penalise those people. They're scared. Everybody's scared right now. It's far, far worse that any Black or Asian person should ever feel that they are treated as different or don't fit in or won't get ahead in an organisation because of the colour of their skin. That is wrong, and hey, it's against the law for a good reason. But it's also a bad thing, not as bad, but also a bad thing, that anyone else should worry that, oh, if I say the wrong thing, if I say the right thing, I'm going to be wrong and people are going to accuse me of racism. We kind of need to, everyone needs to just back off and relax a bit, don't they? And stop talking incessantly about skin colour.
You're absolutely spot on. And that situation that you've just talked about, that does happen in the policing. White officers are spoken to say, this happened, can you just explain yourself? Yeah. Black and Asian officers aren't, and it does go down the formal procedures, which then explains the figures. So when you're doing that internally, you're going to do that externally as well with your communities, and you're not going to have that little friendly chat. Oh, did you do this? No, you're going to put it to paper. You're going to put it through for charging, investigations, court cases, and you're going to clog up the system. And that's where the problem is. And that's what institutional racism is. It's not individuals who are racist. It's the policies and procedures that haven't moved on and that don't give.
But the motivations might not necessarily be from a bad place. That might be, and I'm not making excuses. Look, I have no shadow of a doubt that there are some racist officers, because there are racist people in every walk of life. And when these people ever have any power, that is a very bad thing. And in terms of things like stop and search, Priti Patel, the Home Secretary, wants more powers for police to do stop and search. And there are an awful lot. For instance, black mums on sink estates in urban areas are crying out for more stop and search to keep their teenage boys and girls safe, because they know they're at biggest risk. It's their black boys and girls who are the biggest risk from being stabbed to death, rather than my white middle class daughter and her nice street. Do you think that is going to be an issue?
Stop and search is an effective tool. So the actual tool itself is effective, but it's the way that you use it. It's the respect, it's the conversation, it's the communication.
It's how you address people.
Yeah, and that's what needs to be tackled. It's not the stop and search itself, it's how individuals use it and interpret it.